conversation forward, we have prominent experts from the fields of research, education, and industry. We are thankful to them for joining us to share their valuable insights into how the childhood learning process impacts the long-term development of a child. We have with us today Professor Syaamantak. He is currently an assistant professor in the interdisciplinary program in education technology at IIT Mumbai. He received his PhD in cognitive information analysis of educational texts from the Center of Educational Technology at IIT Kharagpur after his master's in the field of computer science from NIT Durgapur and the NIT and the National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research in Kolkata. After his PhD, he was associated with the Harris School of Public Policy at University of Chicago, researching as a data and policy summer scholar in the field of education policy, analyzing the impact of Safe Passage program in Chicago City Schools. Prior to this, he was associated with Piramal and Walt Quant. He's currently heading the School Pedagogy, Assessment, Research and Text Analysis, short form SPARTA research group, and is also the founder of Project Stories, an online platform containing curated free learning resources. Thank you, Professor Das, for joining us today.
Hello, Dr. Dasgupta. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. Hello to all other panelists.
Sure.
Hope you are having a great Sunday.
Oh, yes, I think the children are definitely, and you know, the excitement always comes from the children around. We also have,
Please go ahead.
Sure. So we also have with us Ms. Sreeja Iyer. She is the CEO and founder of Sparking Minds Global School in Bangalore. She's an electronics and communications engineer, MBA graduate from ISB, Indian School of Business, and an alumni of Harvard Graduate School of Education Future of Learning program. She has 12 plus years of experience in designing game-based learning systems that empower children to become lifelong learners and change makers. She is a strong advocate of empathy in education. Welcome, Ms. Sreeja. Thank you so much for taking the time out with your busy schedule.
Thanks, Sonali. Thanks for inviting me for this panel. I'm really excited to be here. And like Syaamantak said, hi to all the other panelists. Really excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have next on the panel, we have Dr. Anish Bekal. He's the founder of eLagori, a modular electronics development platform for hardware system developers in startups, R&D organizations, and academic institutions to create innovative large systems without worrying about circuit details. He has a PhD in my favorite topic, photonics, from IIT Madras, and has over 15 years of research experience in high technology areas with demonstrated history of working in the research industry and expertise in development of solutions from concept to product. Extremely important. Welcome, Dr. Bekal. I might have to ask, yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Hey. Thanks, Dr. Sonali. Thanks for inviting me for this panel discussion, and welcome to all the fellow students and the panelists. And it will be an exciting time for another half an hour.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to the discussion. So finally, without much ado, we have Ms. Gayatri Vamsi, the most important part of this panel. She's a hands-on parent and the founder and CEO of Buzzing Bees. She's carved a niche in this venture by bringing together her passion for teaching, and she's on a mission to raise 1 million young readers. Grooming young kids into leaders needs a multi-pronged approach with parents and teachers playing a vital role. At Buzzing Bee, she's focusing on activating kids through parents, teachers with her curated program. Her goal is to make kids well-rounded and future-ready. She believes in something that Oprah Winfrey once said, and actually it has stuck to me since I read this. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. The ability to triumph begins with you always. So welcome, Ms. Gayatri, for this session.
Hey, thank you, Sonali, for having me here. Hi, Sreeja, hi, Syaamantak, and hi, Anish, and hello, children.
Hello, Dr. Vamsi.
Okay,
hi,
so
ma'am. Hi, ma'am. Good morning. Hello, sir.
Yeah, we have a lot of children with us today. So if everybody starts saying hello, I think we will easily run out of 2 hours, next 2 hours. So with, with that in mind, what we'll do is we'll really jump into the topic of discussion for today, which is actually, to be honest, difficult to cover in a half an hour slot, but we will try and do our best. So the topic of our discussion today is developing higher order thinking skills through integrated learning. Higher order thinking skills, or HOTS as we call it, is supposed to be the most critical skill set that our children should probably have for the future. So I'll start with actually Professor Das. What is actually higher order thinking skills? What is integrated learning? Would you like to share your views on that?
Okay. So if we look at the integrated hands-on learning, so what we mean by that is actively engaging in the learning process by participating in creating, building, experimenting, and problem-solving activities. So these are the basic 4 pillars by which this actively integrated hands-on learning can happen. Now, what is the advantage of doing this? Firstly, it allows your students to take the ownership of their learning. And in second, as a consequence of this, it helps them to develop the understanding of the subject matter. So,
Right.
so let's say that you are doing some kind of science experiments as a part of your classroom activity, or say you are bringing in some design challenges, or let's say some art projects, even for humanities subjects like geography, say history. And so this allows your students to have a creativity, first of all. Then it allows them to develop their critical thinking. And at last, it helps them to have their own problem solving skills, which are not directly related to the textbooks or the syllabus patterns that we have. And this is very essential as a teacher and a parent to ensure that this is being fostered into the students, so that as they're growing up, these are the set of skills that they'll be taking, irrespective of whatever subject, domain, or profession they're choosing. So this is what I can share in short.
Right. So actually, you said it brings them problem-solving skills and makes them think. So then why is higher order, or what is higher order thinking skills as opposed to regular thinking, regular assessment?
So by higher order, we mean that a set of cognitive skills that is going beyond the basic recall and comprehension of information. If we look at the school curriculum, at least till class 10, our focus is primarily on the basic recall and comprehension of information. If you refer to the Bloom's taxonomy, so most of the school questions, even for what we have observed during one of our research, is that they refer to the lower levels of the Bloom's taxonomy, recall and comprehension, to a certain extent application, not beyond that. But the moment you are bringing higher order thinking skills, it helps you to, first of all, your students to think critically. And by critically, we are not saying that let's going into very deep analysis, just to help them to connect from their existing knowledge and build up something. So allows them to make decisions, right, and apply it into some real world situation. So this, as a consequence, makes them that they're able to take well-informed decisions. They're able to solve relatively complex problems, and later they can innovate new solutions to meet challenges.
Wonderful. Actually, sorry, I did not mean to cut you off, but I was very excited by the fact that you brought up Bloom's taxonomy in the discussion. I mean, it's a 7-layer learning process. It's a pyramid, right? As we understand. We start with the lower order thinking skills and we move up along the order, where the highest top 3 are the higher order thinking skills, as we call it. So from what you've described right now, in terms of applying Bloom's taxonomy in the school system, or for a child's learning process or pathway, it seems like it has to be very, very personalized for the children. It has to be according to the child's abilities on how they are progressing. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, because let's say you are doing a flipped classroom approach. Let's say you are teaching them basic shapes, square, triangle, rectangle, all this. Then you are asking them that, look, you have to build a house. So what are the shapes you can use to build a house. So now they're using their previous knowledge of the shapes, and now they know that which shape to put over other, so that that house shape can be made.
Wonderful. So actually, I'll come to you, Ms. Sreeja, because we are talking about the higher order thinking skills, and we are thinking about helping the children apply what they have learned. Now, even now, like Professor Das mentioned about split classroom, it is still working in smaller groups as opposed to what we are used to, 35 children in a classroom. So you run a school, right? And you run a progressive school which believes in Bloom's taxonomy or making the learning more application focused. So how, in your experience, what has been the most successful ways in which you've been able to implement HOT into your regular learning process for the children?
All right. Thanks, Sonali. I think for us, because an integrated hands-on learning is something that is connected to the child's life. And that's very important, that they find meaning and purpose in whatever they are trying to apply to. It cannot be something made up. It cannot be something that I have thought about, right? It should be something that they connect with very, very deeply. And that is not just intellectually discussed, but it is hands-on. Like hands-on would mean children are going out there into the society, into the community and figuring things out, right? They're really putting an idea to test. They're really trying to figure out how does all of this come together and make sense, right? Something I have learned in theory, will it really work if I apply it, right? So all of that, we've kind of at school brought it together into change-making missions that children apply. Okay, so they really are very passionate about, and I know a lot of these little kids might also be very passionate about climate change, very passionate about, all the kind of food, junk food that we are eating, and the sugar and how it affects us. Once children start thinking about it, they're really worried, oh, this is causing us issues. They're really concerned about disparities in income and inequalities in the society, which cause vulnerabilities for children and minority communities. They're really excited about different kinds of cultural issues that actually taboos and myths and superstitions, and how it affects us, and how we are really not staying close to our culture in so many ways. So in all of these specific contexts, we actually enable children to take all the learning that they are having, the knowledge and the understanding of concepts, and go and apply it in the real context. How can we create products and services and solutions and workshops, and how do we really reach out beyond us also? One is our understanding, and how do we reach out? So children are experimenting, they are creating products, they're creating models, they're creating surveys, right? They're doing all of that on a daily, weekly basis. So it becomes like applied thinking process. So what Syaamantak said and what you are referring to, Bloom's taxonomy, is right. You need that knowledge, you need the comprehension, but you also need to build on top of it. So we help children go beyond, I know something, I've scored marks on it, to I can figure this out. I can apply it in some context, right? And the context makes sense to my life. I think for us, that is integrated hands-on learning, really in a nutshell, that I can apply it in a context that makes sense to me. I find purpose and meaning in what I'm doing. So
what I find very exciting in what you said is it is important to have some form of assessment. We cannot say let them learn and then leave it to them. So it's very interesting that the lower order thinking skills has to be direct learning of the knowledge, and the higher order thinking skills, what I understand, is the application of that knowledge. Now you made it seem very easy to implement. The way you describe it's exciting and it's easy to implement. I'm pretty sure it's not that easy. There are challenges that you face in implementing this approach. Can you just share one challenge that you face, and how do you try to overcome that, especially in a context like India, where we have an inertia to move from lower order to higher order for some reason?
Actually, it's a very good question. So people ask us, how can you teach everything through play? How can everything be hands-on, right? How can everything be experiential? Yeah. You have to let them study, right? So we do this in two ways. One, we design it in such a way that the context is sitting at the center. And it is because children want to apply all of this to something is why they're learning everything. So there is a lot of space and intent to figure things out. So children figure the basics out. We assess that rigorously. We establish learning skills and mastery rigorously. Parents do see the results. And then we free up the time, the rest of the time, because they're not mindlessly figuring things out and sitting hopelessly in classes, right? That rest of the emotional bandwidth is free for them to really go apply. So we literally turned the curriculum on its head because everything is about the application. So children put a lot of effort to figure things out. They might have learned some basics of Kannada in a language lab with us. They will go back and they're like, ma'am, how do I write this? I have to really write a petition. And how do I figure this out? There's so much excitement. And the teachers are also very excited. We call them facilitators in our school. They're also very excited because, when children come with so much excitement, I will do. Then that excitement spills over at home.
Right.
And the parents are like, oh, children are learning, right? So it is, yeah.
No, I love the fact. I mean, I understand. So if you can, from what I understood, to summarize, is that it's about explaining the real intent of the learning and utilizing the free time most efficiently where there is a thought process behind it and not making it just completely open-ended. So it's guided yet open-ended is what I see.
And parents do play a key role. So explaining and bringing parents on board is very important. So helping them understand how doing this is going to cater to the whole child, is going to cater to the child's growth in a complete way. It's not this and that. It's not ki abhi ye kar lenge, fir 18 like jab work jayenge tab baki kar lenge. No, it doesn't. The neural pathways get wired very differently.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. I mean, I'm so glad you mentioned this because I'm sure there are a lot of parents listening here. And one of the main things that we at STEM Monsters have been trying to achieve is also educating the parents before the children. So I'll come to that, Gayatri. I know you've been working with a lot of parents, you have a lot of exposure there. But before that, I'll actually go to Dr. Bekal here, Dr. Anish, because we were talking about children. Now, these children are going to be undergrads sometime when they're going into the employability sector. So you work as part of your venture, you work with a lot of undergrads, either as interns or trying to make them understand your approach to e-library and from a very technical point of view, right? So in your opinion, while you've been working with undergraduates, how have you seen either the, how do you perceive the people or the undergrads who have these hot skills, so higher order thinking skills, in adapting to a new technology that you are trying to impart to them? And what is your feeling in terms of the majority of children who are now graduating and coming or will come into the employability sector maybe in a year or two? You need to probably unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks for giving the opportunity for me to put forward my thoughts. See, it's when we say higher order thinking and how students in like children go towards being undergrads and then possibly the workforce is primarily that we have unfortunately for over many decades or centuries to some extent have put up this ideology of departments and subjects, and we have compartmentalized something like English, Hindi, compartmentalized science, and even within that chemistry, physics, and biology, and so many things, right? So it was fine for a different age and different time, but now the things have become so intertwined that it is no longer a world where even as things as simple as remote as calligraphy and computer science are now related, right? How you write, and that's what Apple did many years back, where they integrated the two and you had a good product, right? So somehow we have to bring in that mentality and mentality of merging all of them together and giving them the whole perspective that there is only one world, and this world is an interaction of all these elements that are coming together. And what is happening is it is hard for undergraduate students even now to differentiate these two things. And if you look at it, right, all the things that generally would have been invented in a particular stream as a core stream could possibly have been invented. There might be few things that may not, but most of the research right now, most of the things where it is really evolving is where there is their so-called interdisciplinary approach. We have made this thing called interdisciplinary, but it's actually not interdisciplinary. It's actually one world representing in its form where all of them are connecting to each other. That's all. We have kind of taken the old paradigm and tried to fix it somehow and call it interdisciplinary. Right? So I just believe that even at the level of children growing up into undergraduates, we are able to reinforce this idea that these are all not different subjects, and maybe give them an opportunity to combine the two, combine multiple things that are being taught into a more cohesive understanding. That actually, as Sreeja was telling, that it kind of rewires the brain to when they come to the undergraduate level or the work level, that they're able to do a much better job. Because one of the biggest problems that even I felt when I was interacting with students is that they don't have the ability to think of it as a system. Their ability is so focused on one particular subject or one particular ideology. They're not thinking, how do you optimize the overall structure or overall system as a whole? I, of course, have a very big example for that, but
no, that's wonderful. I mean, I really love the fact that you brought together the focus on interdisciplinary, while it is really about one world. I mean, in the times of Galileo, if you look at the works of Galileo or Da Vinci, was he an artist? Was he an engineer? Was he an innovator? I mean, it is only through the ages that we have somewhere lost the plot in a way, and we're trying to bring it back. So I'm so glad that you brought this up, that I feel whether even today when we are talking of ChatGPT or AI, it is actually the culmination of what traditionally we might call arts and languages with science and technology. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And I'll come back to you now, Gayatri, not come back, but I'll come to you, Gayatri, because you are the most important piece where you are working with the children and the parents. I know that you've been leading a big parenting community, and you're working at the start of these youngsters when they're just probably starting to speak. And you've also been a very hands-on parent with your own children. You have homeschooled them, and they're all successful right now. So as a parent, I want to get the parent's point of view from you. As a parent, how do you think a parent can try to implement everything that we have discussed right now for their child from a young age, whether it's making neural pathways, whether it is getting them interested, looking at the bigger picture? How can we do that as a parent? And in your own experience with your children, how did you achieve that way before time?
Thank you, Sonali. And one point that I really like to make here is what Sreeja mentioned, creating the awareness among parents. See, all parents doesn't matter where you come from, which area you belong to, which economic status you belong to, what's your educational background, whatever it is. We all want best for our children in the given circumstances. But we do make mistakes, or we do miss out on certain things because of the lack of awareness. So as educators, if we can work on bringing that awareness, it is very, very easy to handle children. Because once teachers, schools, parents are all aligned on the same thing, the change in the child comes very, very automatically. We don't have to work on bringing that change in the child, right? So what for me, bringing that awareness among parents, we don't have to talk technical about HOTS or anything. Simple, like, Robert Sternberg has this 7 levels of answering the questions. Because see, children always ask why. There are thousands of whys every day that parent faces, right? So if we can answer these questions in a systematic approach, we develop HOTS without even realizing that we are developing HOTS. I'll quickly go through it. Level 1 is just reject the questions. We will take example, why do we need to eat vegetables? Just reject the question, because I said so, right? Level 2 would be hey, resonate with them. Eating vegetables, so take that question and answer that answer. So admit ignorance. And most of the times we ignore the question, or we reject the question because we don't know the answer, or we don't know how to present the answer. Then admit ignorance and present information. And fourth is voice encouragement to seek response. You tell your child, hey, come, let's figure out why we need to eat vegetables, right? And the fifth level is encourage brainstorming. All of you sit down, ask questions. Why do you think we need to eat vegetables? So they start that thinking in their mind. Now they might say because it is healthy, because it is colorful, a lot of things. And when you're discussing, when you're brainstorming, do not judge the ideas that they come up with, right? Don't trash them away at that discussion point. Table all the ideas and then weigh in what works and what do not work. And the sixth level is encourage consideration of alternative explanations. If they have any other alternative explanation, listen to what their perspective is, what their thought process is, as where they are coming from. Children are very, very, very smart than how or what we imagine who they are, right? So give that perspective. And the last one is explore all the options together and put a means of evaluating each option, and go back to the evaluation on a regular basis. And I understand that we cannot answer all the questions with these 7 levels, but we don't have to choose the level 1 or level 7. So in between, we can always choose to answer their questions in a day-to-day life. Why do I go to school? My elder one, both my kids are homeschooled, and my elder one went to school only for grade 6. So till then he was with me, and he would always ask, why should I brush my teeth? Why do I need to wake up in the morning? Why can't I wake up through the night and sleep through the day? Right? So when we follow these, I see that there are certain skills creating, analyzing, and see, every problem, every situation, every question has multiple answers to it.
Right.
So what works for us may not work for other. So I have seen this kind of discussions at home has helped him analyze the options that is available and pick the one that is best for that particular day. Tomorrow it might change. He understands that. He has developed empathy towards other people's perspectives because of these. So when I was homeschooling, I didn't know anything about parenting or coaching or psychology or anything. Very selfish reason that I wanted to spend more time with my children. I started this journey of homeschooling, which actually gave me a career now. Now my kids are grown up, they are almost 17 and 12. They went back to school. They're quite independent. So many parents ask me, how are they independent? They study on their own. I don't even know when their exams come in and go.
Oh, isn't that the best?
Quite a few internships. So all that, when I sit down and think back about it, it goes back to developing that high order thinking skills. They analyze, they create, they evaluate, they understand, and also they remember. See, it is as one of you mentioned, it is not just about high order thinking skills. It is also about low order thinking skills, and merging the integration of both is what makes it very effective. So it is very simple for parent. Answer your children's whys.
Wonderful, Gayatri. I think you summed it up to the best thing. Answer your whys. I think, in fact, in Apple, there was a thing of breaking up any project when they picked up a new project to 5 whys, not 7, 5 whys. And by the end of 5 whys, they would have a clear answer on whether the product should go into the next stage or not. So 2 things: treat your children, give them the space to voice their opinion, and consider it. And the second, follow the whys, answer the whys, and you will automatically get to a place where children figure out the answers themselves. So actually, this might seem like a little bit daunting for a lot of people. Now, I know we are a little short of time. Before I proceed with the next set of questions, I do have a few more for all of you because it's such an interesting topic. Would it be all right for all of you to be staying back for 5 or 10 more minutes? If that's okay with all of you, because it's such a fantastic discussion. I don't want to let go of the time. So coming back to the 5 whys and asking and assessing, before I move on to Ms. Vijay, I'll ask you, Professor Das, can technology and cognitive AI help in this kind of an integrated learning approach. But before that, very quickly, what is cognitive AI for the benefit of everybody who is watching or listening to us right now?
Okay, so cognitive AI would be application of AI in education, which is helping to optimize learning, if I can put it in that simple way. Now, how you can do it? So let's say that you are teaching something very abstract in a classroom as a teacher. And we know that still now, textbooks are the de facto learning materials that we have, irrespective of which school you are going on, which kind of level. So let's say that you are teaching them something about the human body. Now, let's understand this, that as a class 6 or a class 5 student, it may be very difficult for me to understand that what happens when the food goes into my stomach. As soon as I'm putting in my mouth, it's going away. So let's say, can we show it through some kind of an augmented reality way, by which the food, once you are in your mouth, you are chewing it, it's going down from your throat all the way down to your stomach, then some internal digestion is happening, then it is passing out. So once you are able to show this through technology to the students, it creates something called immersive learning. So the moment that immersive learning happens, it becomes very easy for you to remember those concepts. So I remember personally from my own school experience. So when we used to learn something, about biology or say geography, the teacher used to bring us models. So we literally one day created a volcano in the classroom itself. And since then, I never forget about the concept of volcano ever in my life. But if I have to go to the textbook, that would have been very difficult, because textbook is all about static information. There is a 2D diagram and there is a lot of text, which perhaps becoming very daunting for me at one time to understand. So the moment we are trying to bring, this immersive learning, it is helping me. Why? Because I am, as Gayatri mentioned, I am able to rise up to that level of cognitive understanding. So right from the remembering of the facts to all the way up to creating. So there's a journey happening. So this is how technology can come into play. Now let me give you some examples by which technology can come into play in this context. So first will be virtual simulations and augmented reality. I'm personally working on this project. So one of my PhD students is actually developing something like this, even for the school students. Second is digital collaborative tools. How this is going to help? In a classroom, you have 50 kids. Break them into group of 5-10s. Give them one individual device, say a tablet, something like that, and 5 of them working together. So you will eventually see that they themselves are coming up with the problems and the solutions. So they're able to take, they're able to take information without having the proper information from there, or they're able to follow instructions without having the in the absence of instruction. You ask them to do a project, and they themselves will come and tell you that, okay, this is how I want to build it. Second, interactive multimedia resources. They are able to explain information in a visually engaging and interactive way. So nowadays you will see that a lot of smart textbooks are coming up. Why? Because we have realized that I have a device in my hand, a smartphone, which if I can pair it with additional as a supportive app with the textbook, I'm able to see or able to analyze information in a more analytical way. Second is, and last would be to, in the case of assessment and quizzes, not to give a summative assessment, rather you should be focusing on evaluating the learner's understanding firstly, and then look into the mastery and the concepts of skills. Once you are able to do this, then probably you will be having a better way of evaluating the students, because at the end, our objective cannot be and should not be to put a number against the children and say that, oh, look, you have a 9 out of 10 and you have a 6 out of 10. We need to explain them what, even for the 9 out of 10, that where you are lagging and how you can improve. And in the same case, for the even for the 6 out of 10, that where you are lagging and what can be the remedial measures so that you can come up to your best potential, which may not be 9, but maybe 7.
I mean, as I understand, it's all about making the children engaged and immersed in completing the task that is required. So the motivation is themselves and not the teacher or the marks or a third party. But it does bring a question to my mind, and I'll address it to you, Ms. Sreeja. We are talking of cognitive AI, we are talking of smart tools, we are talking of AR into this, bringing it into learning. PlayShifu became a unicorn just by doing that, right? The company PlayShifu. So my question to you is, when we are, it's very nice for people like us who are talking right now at a top level. But when it comes to implementing AR, AI, or any kind of digital platform in a country like India for the masses, what are the challenges that you see other than the economic part of it? Of course, economy is one of the things. Affordability is a very big thing which plays a major role if you have to take it to the masses. But it's important. We can't stop innovating because it's not affordable at this point. So how do you see the implementation of cognitive AI or digital technology in bringing or taking the education to the masses?
It's a good question. I think I've always seen innovation happen in a way that takes into account the constraints in the environment is generally the one that scales. So in India, we've always been rugged and very jugadi, if I may, that way. So I know that the most cutting edge technology can be wrapped in a user interface which can reach the masses. So I think it's just a matter of putting those pieces together. And, like Syaamantak is saying, most of the schools which can afford or are trying to bring digital into their children's lives are doing a one-on-one, right? Every child has a device, but he's already saying, what if we have a class of 50 and 10 groups of 8 and only 10 devices, right? It already is reducing the need. What if it's a local network device, right? So there are many ways to really think about this, and I'm quite certain that it will happen, right? I think the other piece, which is it important to happen, is probably a very important question to answer, and I believe it is, right? Because it already, with access to internet not being there, you have a digital haves and have nots, and then with cognitive AI you're taking it to the next level, right? What you can achieve with the AI function kind of supplementing your learning process is beyond measure, right? So child not having access to that is only going to increase that divide. So they need it. And is it possible? Yes, we will make it happen.
I think you summed it up very nicely, actually, because we cannot ignore technology. We like it or we don't like it, we can't ignore it. And the difference lies in the fact that we have to make sure that technology becomes the enabler. It doesn't become the goal. As long as it's the enabler to learning, I think we cannot ignore technology, especially if we are thinking of making India go. I mean, for me personally, I want to see India as the top of the innovation index globally. So we cannot ignore it. It's about changing the perception that technology is not necessarily bad as long as it's the enabler of the learning ecosystem. So I'll come to you, Dr. Bekal, as an employer, what do you wish the children would come in more with in terms of not the hard skills, higher order thinking skills, we have discussed that enough, but in terms of their awareness to evolving technologies, evolving applications that are out there? Do you see there is a lack of those when they are coming out of the graduation system? Is the curriculum still lagging behind?
Yes, so actually we have thought about it. There is a lot of people. I have had a lot of interns coming into the school from directly from the undergraduate level, and I might sound a little old school here, but I have a slightly different perspective on this, in a sense that I truly believe that the AI and the chat GPT that is coming in, Google itself, has been a fantastic enabler. Okay, but what is unfortunately happening is that Google should not be used to find solutions. It has to be used for finding information. There is a big difference between the two. When I tell my interns to basically find a particular problem, the first thing that they do is go and Google it.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm scared that even children will start doing it. That unfortunately will create a trend where people have kind of forgotten how to think and come to a solution of a problem, but rather go and search on the internet where that solution exists. And many of the things that we deal with are not done before. So they're not finding a solution on the internet directly, and they are unable to basically break that solution into parts and find information on the internet for those parts. Okay.
Wonderful.
And I think that has to start at the school level, at the college level, where for example, when you say, why does the sun rise from the east, instead of basically students going and Googling why does the sun rise from the east, they are basically asked a question as to, you evolve a reason why that is so. Okay. And for me, the whole human evolution, human cultural evolution has happened that way. We have signified them as gods. We have signified heliocentric versus geocentric. All these things have come from our desire to understand, our ability to think why a certain things happen by ourselves, and not basically rely on some already existing source in terms of book, in terms of whatever that is, to give you the answer. Right?
Wonderful. I'm just, go ahead.
Yeah, and that has to come somehow get reinforced in this new world of ChatGPT, new world of Google, old world of Google. Google itself has done enough damage that ChatGPT, I think, will make it even worse, where they look for very specific information and nothing else. So I think that somehow has to be inculcated in our learning structure itself, that people should be given ability to basically come up with a hypothesis of why a certain thing is happening, and then cross-verify or understand it better using these technologies that are there. Otherwise, we'll end up with a point, I think we'll saturate and we'll become Googlers. We'll become more dumber than what we were.
I kind of like what you say. I mean, we have the naysayers and we have the believers. As a society, we will have all the people. It's like somebody, when ChatGPT came out, somebody said, oh, it's like someone getting scared of the bulb and the candle makers going out of business. So I think we'll always have naysayers, but what is important, and you summed it up very well, is that it is not about what is evolving. It is about having those basic foundational skills which can work upon and build upon what is already existing, and not like ChatGPT, where you ask them what happens next and it says, I have only been trained up until 2021 and I cannot give you the answer, right? So due to the paucity of time, I will have to end this wonderful discussion. I really hope we can all get together one more time, and as stakeholders for the learning community of children, as parents, as educators, as technology innovators, and as employers, we need to work together, understand, and come up with implementing what we have discussed today. That finally, I think it all boils down to making it possible, implementing it and making it actionable, which I think 30 minutes or 45 minutes is too little a time to come up with. But I think with people such as yourself coming for this discussion today is proof enough that there are enough people who understand, are working towards it. So I would I have to sum it up now, that integrated learning of concepts without these barrier of subjects that we have put on our children is probably one of the ways where we can start off to make sure that the future generations don't see themselves becoming redundant in front of machines and ChatGPT and robots. And we as the educator and parenting community have to continue working on building innovative teaching and assessment methods to ensure this gets implemented, not just remains a discussion topic on a forum. I mean, that's the only way for humans to remain relevant and thrive. So as Einstein said, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. And we all understand that. We just have to make sure make sure that it happens in our society. So on that positive note, I would like to thank you all for joining me in this fantastic discussion today, for your insight. I wish that we had a little bit more time, but time is always in shortage. So I will end it up here. Thank you very much for your time. And for the participants out there, we will be moving on to the next event of Let's Talk Science, where children, the finalists, will be presenting the 2-minute talk on the topic, the best invention till today has been dash 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 because dash dash dash. So hopefully, if you have the time, please feel free to stay back and listen to some of them. We got over 100 people participating in the preliminary round, and we have 14 of them presenting today. So please feel free to stay back if you wish to. But thank you so much for taking time out on a Sunday morning and discussing this very relevant topic with us here today. Thank you very much.